Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's ceremony. Cues to stand or be seated will be given throughout the ceremony. Military guests in uniform should stand at attention for musical honors and the national anthem, while civilian guests may put their hand over their heart during the national anthem. Please silence all cellular phones at this time. The ceremony will begin shortly. Thank you. Beautiful warm day here in Alabama, isn't it? just a little bit warm. Good morning, and thank you for good morning. Thank you for talking back. Good morning. Thank you for attending today's ceremony honoring Colonel Terrence Adams on the occasion of his appointment to Brigadier General, United States Air Force. Presiding over today's ceremony is Major General, United States Air Force retired Mark Anthony Brown. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of musical honors, the national anthem by the Tuskegee University Marching Band, an invocation by chaplain and cousin of Colonel Adams, Kevin Pugh. Chaplain and cousin of Colonel Adams, Captain Kevin Pugh, will you please offer the invocation?
For those who desire can join me in prayer. Father, we're thankful for this glorious occasion for which we've gathered here this morning. God, we're so thankful for this promotion ceremony of Colonel Terrence Adams to the rank of Brigadier General. Lord, we know that it is only by your doing in your hand. So we are eternally grateful and thankful for you, God, for guiding his every footstep, for leading and directing him. Now, Father, as he takes on this new rank, this new realm of responsibility, God, I pray that you will continue to instruct him, continue to lead him, continue to be the fortifying force that drives him, God. And Lord, I pray that you will bless the work of his hands. God, I pray for favor upon his life, that everywhere he goes, everything that he does, Lord, that you will order his steps. And God, we're thankful for his life. We're thankful for his presence. We're thankful for his impact. But God, most importantly, we're thankful for the man. We give you all glory, honor, and praise. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We are honored to introduce the family members in attendance today. Please hold all applause until all names are called. Miss Aretha Adams, Mrs. Teresa Simmons, Ms. Felicia Johnson, Miss Deirdre Gully. We also have distinguished visitors with us today. Councilwoman Jackson, Honorable Jackson, Judge Calvin Williams, Reverend Michael Powell, Major General Walter Gavan, Major General John Gordy, Major Retired Howard Watkins, Brigadier General Leslie Mayer, Senior Executive Service Eugene Dacus, Senior Executive Service Adrian Gardner, Retired Mr. and Mrs. Sidney and Kitty Combs, Ms. Sharice Stokes, Mayor Tony Haygood, Dr. Carl Stockton, to all other senior leaders, friends, and colleagues, thank you for taking time out of your schedules to join us today for this momentous occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Major General Mark Brown, United States Air Force, retired.
Good morning, everyone. You can relax. This is a promotion ceremony. This is a celebration, right? This is a very special time. And I've been to, just so you know, I've been to many promotion ceremonies. I've worn a uniform for many years. I don't think I've ever seen anybody come to a promotion ceremony by police escort. I mean, when you're by police escort, that's normally not a good thing in the military, but this is a good thing today. If you want to get promoted, come to Tuskegee. They will bring you by police escort. What a great and traditional way to start off Red Tail Weekend. You know, the last time I wore this uniform, I was actually here on the grounds of Tuskegee, and I would not have put it back on had it not been for a request from someone from Tuskegee. And I'm not sure how normal it is, really, for a person of retirement to do a promotion ceremony, but we check with protocol and it's okay. And while I will always enjoy a retirement, I will always miss these special customs and courtesies, which are so unique to military service and certainly to our great Air Force. To the family, TA's mom, Miss Aretha Adams, his sister, who played a big part in planning the ceremony, Miss Felicia Johnson, I came here today really with you in mind. You see, it's something that I want you to know. You're the customer. That's why I want you to relax. I want you to know the Terrence Adam, or as we say, T to the A, that we know. And then I want the rest of our Air Force brethren to know what you did before we ever met. And you know, when it comes to promotion ceremonies, it really doesn't matter if our airmen want them or not. We want them to have them. We want to tell their Air Force story so that none will forget their journey. So how do we do it? First, we ask them to dress up in the best they have. This is the best we got in the Air Force. We put this on. We bring you down like you're going to church. We make you put on what we call the Class A uniform. And then we want your family to sit in the front row. So in keeping that amazing tradition, today is about the Terrence Adams story. But perhaps today is special even beyond the sacred traditions of our great Air Force and the uniform garments that we wear. Today, we gathered in a sacred place, and in a sense, we dressed in the garments of our ancestors. Now, what do I mean about dressed in the garments of our ancestors? In this case, and for a few more minutes, Colonel Terrence Adams has chosen a special venue, a venue that is his home, the very grounds upon which he was born, just down the street from his high school, a venue that is historic to our nation's history, to the history of our Air Force, to the history, and in my opinion, every African American and every American. We are on the sacred grounds of Tuskegee, Tuskegee Normal School, built by the students brick by brick, Tuskegee Institute, where Booker T. Washington taught by a light in a church, where the Commodores sang to amazing success. Tuskegee University has the highest graduation rate today of any school in the state of Alabama. This is a very special place. Give yourselves a round of applause. Just down the street, I saw it as I got off the highway, and around the corner is Moulton Field, where airmen open the doors to aviation for people like me, people of color. That's just down the street. But these are literally the same grounds where Terrence Adams ran as a child. You see, Terrence was born in what was at one time called Tuskegee Institute Hospital, which we all know now as John A. Andrew Memorial Hospital. But it wasn't just a hospital. It was the first African-American hospital in the state of Alabama, a hospital that provided community outreach through decentralized health centers. Before that was a thing. They took health care to the homes before this pandemic, but when there were many others before. This was no small matter in a county that suffered from transportation problems, especially for the elder. At the time, the service of John Andrews Hospital was life-saving. It was critical to the existence of this community. That's our history. The hospital where T.A. was born literally saved the Black Belt, if you go back far enough. And then I looked through the constants of T.A.'s career. I don't think it's ironic. I'd rather say it is prophetic that he was born in John Andrews Hospital and that he joined the United States Air Force. So I want you to know that we're not just anywhere. We didn't just show up today to come to Tuskegee. We're standing on the shoulders. We're wearing the garments of our ancestors. We're living off of the blood and sweat of Moulton Field. It really is good to be here with you. I couldn't think of a better place to have a promotion than Tuskegee. Think about it. Now, he's not quite the prodigal son. We're not going to kill a calf in here this morning. But rather, he is the successful but humble son who could have done this promotion anywhere, but he came home, ma'am, to say thank you, and for the village to say well done. Most ceremonies like this are on military bases, but I don't want you to forget this. Terrence came home. If you'd allow me just one personal privilege before we get into what he's done, and I'll get right back on script. I'm compelled to tell you what I believe. You see, I believe the United States has the greatest Air Force in the world, bar none. If you know one that is better, please let me know. We are not the best, though, because of our great planes. We got those. Or great equipment. We got a lot of that. Well-funded research, or even beautiful bases like Maxwell just up the street. That's all good, but none of it makes us great. We have a different secret to our success. We're great because ordinary, everyday people, they come in and they do extraordinary things. They agree to voluntarily make incredible sacrifices and then serve for something that's really abstract called democracy. That is why we are greater, and that's why we're the greatest. I know for most that seems like some fantastical thing, a sales pitch, maybe one of those things that you see at halftime on the Super Bowl like aim high. But it's not a commercial. And using Terrence Adams, I want to make my case today. Remember my premise. Remember my basic argument. Ordinary people manage to accomplish extraordinary things. And as a result, the United States of America, our nation, is better for their service. Now, this seems like a unique thing in a capitalistic pay me more, give me more world. But it is who we are as airmen, public servants who fight and are even willing to die on the battlefield for the greater good. And I don't want to upset you, but that's who we are. And while the people that I group together and speak of as airmen are all similar in their selfless service, they're also unique from ordinary places. Every airman has a story. It's quite normal to forget on occasions like today that every airman's story begins before they ever enter the gateways of Lackland, the halls of Officer Training School, the academies, Reserve Officer Training Corps, or even boot camp if you start in the Army. This has never been truer than in the case of Terrence Adams, or as I'm going to call him for the rest of the day, T to the A, because that's all we've been calling him for years. I don't know how he got that name. You all have to tell me, but for me, he's been T to the A. It had something to do with a break dance at the club in Maxwell, and I'll tell you about that later. T to the A. He comes from a family with a very high standards in school and the added pressure of coming from a town of historical high achievers. If I got it right, I think Terrence is the baby boy. Terrence did exceedingly well in high school, but when I asked him, he didn't talk about academics, get this, as much as he reminisced on his high school fraternity. You see, Terrence went to Tuskegee Institute High School, which in many ways was patterned after Tuskegee Institute, the local college. So they had fraternities, and Terrence was in something called the Quartermasters. I had to look it up, but Quartermasters is a fraternity in high school. They did things that college fraternities do. They danced, they stepped, and I also learned that they twirled canes. Now, I was okay with everything. I was good until I learned they twirl canes. And I just want you to know, my dear Alpha brother, that we're going to have to talk about twirling canes. Perhaps surprising to some, TA did not go directly to college after high school despite having done well. And what does done well mean in high school? He was on the honor roll. He was in the honor society. He was in Who's Who. He was number 6 overall in his graduating class. Yes, he could have gone straight to college, to be clear, but he chose to enlist in the Army and serve his country just as his brother did. And like many young enlistees, TA made what I call a very mature decision. He was going to pay for college on his own. He was not going to give that expense to his mother. You're beginning to get some insight into TA the man, not just the baby boy. TA the man was strategic about his Army enlistment. He signed into the shortest possible military specialty, which in the Army at the time was called an Army Food Service Specialist. Now, we don't have any simple names in the military. Everything has a very difficult name, but I don't want you to miss it. TA was a cook. That's what he did. He signed up to be a cook. And in a minute, the cook is going to be promoted to a position that is occupied by less than 1% of the greatest Air Force in the world. Recall my argument. Don't forget my premise. Ordinary people who go on to do extraordinary things. Ordinary. Now, you don't get any more ordinary than cooking in the mess hall for the Army. But be careful when you think of the role of a cook. Don't go too far. I'm reminded that Dr. King's edict to people of color, if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, you ought sweep like Michelangelo painted, so that all the world will know there lived a great street sweeper who swept his lot well. He wasn't just a cook, he was a good cook, with a strong foundation from home and a plan for his future. I didn't know he was a cook, but I got to ask, can you still cook? He can still cook. Everybody's invited over. T to the A was simply executing a master plan, or perhaps the master's plan. After 2 years, T to the A would move into the Army Reserves, which allowed him to go to Montgomery and attend Auburn University at Montgomery. I believe the AUM Chancellor is with us today, Dr. Stockton. I want to thank you, sir, for allowing us and participating in the nurturing your school of a future leader. T to the A is at AUM, where he soon joined the Alabama State University, ROTC, in a crosstown agreement. Now, I know that T to the A is brave, because he was a Tuskegee man walking around Alabama State without an escort. So that's brave. That's brave. But that's how he earned a commission to be a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. He didn't just go to AUM, though. Let's not go too fast. He was the Student Government Association president at AUM. He was working student business with the Alabama State Government Association president, who was a guy named Quentin Ross. Yeah, you all know him now to be the president of Alabama State University. We in the Air Force call those the early signs of future significant leadership. The story goes on. But that's the first part of the story. Stick with me. I've shared how this young high school academic stands out, how he starts with a good family foundation, strategically becomes a cook and a private in the Army, serves a 2-year Army tour, goes to AUM, goes to ROTC, and gets commissioned. The question is, how do you go from AUM? How do you go from being a cook to where you're sitting today, in whom in a minute I will for the rest of my life call my fellow general officer? Here's the key, and it might throw you off. Everything I just told you is not known by a promotion board or most supervisors. Promotion boards, they just want cold facts about performance only. They're about as impersonal as any group or person can be. I know I used to be one of them. I've been a part of that for many years. The promotion board did not know this beautiful family. They likely did not know him personally. You see, in our system, they will not allow a promotion board to discuss personal information, nor will they allow personal knowledge to come into play, or you'll be thrown off the promotion board. A group of strangers, this is how it works, ranking in the grade of Major General or higher, they get together in San Antonio, Texas, Randolph Air Force Base. They grade what is about 2,125 records, all of which are already colonels, already in the top percentage of their groups. We don't need, frankly, a lot of generals and a lot of brigadier generals. I like to joke and say we got to keep somebody to do the work. There are over 2,000 colonels. We can only have 411 brigadier generals. The Air Force is about 328,000 strong. That means less than 1% will advance to the rank, less than 1% of brigadier general. And for the board that TA was on, to stay at the 411, they only needed 34. Only 34 were needed to reach the ceiling of 411, that is statutory. So this group of strangers, they get together at Randolph, and they have guidance from the Secretary of the Air Force that says, whatever you do, I don't care how good they all are, statutorily, only bring back 34 names. That's how you have to get through this gauntlet. Now, it's likely that most of those records, highly likely, contain officers who had been deployed in combat many times. It commanded at the flight level, the squadron level, the group level, the wing level. Most of them, almost all of them, had graduate degrees, if not doctorate degrees. They were fighter pilots, and we love fighter pilots in the Air Force. They were space experts, if not astronauts. They were scientists. There were many others. That's what was before the board. Yet that board could only advance 34. So the obvious question is, what's the difference in those who moved forward and those who did not? I think I know. I will tell you that there is no doubt in my mind why we are gathered today for the promotion of Terrence Adams. He has shown the ability, solely because of his performance, to serve in the higher grade of Brigadier General. This is a performance-based promotion system. For the last 35 years, he's outperformed, led better, managed to greater results than his peers. What did the board see in his record? They saw a young man upon whose commission became what we called a gold bar recruiter. As a second lieutenant, we really have two things that we want you to do. Stay out the way and don't break anything. That's normally what we want you to do as a second lieutenant. But TA did so much more than that. As a gold bar recruiter, he would take on the very tough issue of minority accession. It was tough then and it's tough now. For example, in recruiting, everything is a goal. Young Terrence exceeded the ROTC recruiting goal in his first assignment by 200%. Minority scholarships when he was there went from 13 to 23. 62% of the minority applicants were eligible, and his program, get this, was ranked third in the entire nation, Second Lieutenant Adams. He was a second lieutenant, and his bosses were ecstatic. Better than his peers, that's what they said. Early signs of leadership, that's what they wrote. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. By 1995, Terrence Adams had left recruiting, having performed well. He was now serving for the first time in his specialty. He was serving in communications in the largest command that we had at the time, Air Combat Command, in Langley, Virginia. Nothing but fighter pilots. And like I said, we love our fighter pilots. And we had a lot of them. TA was responsible for working on communications equipment, flight line equipment that would identify signals from civilian aircraft to reduce the possibility of friendly fire shots. I think he's through with cooking. He became competent and the go-to person in the air control systems necessary to conduct complex air operations in peacetime and in war. But how did he do in that job? The unit can select one officer as an executive officer. It's normally the best officer you have, with the purpose of grooming and shaping them for future positions. After working on these air control systems, TA was selected in his first operational assignment to be the group executive officer. Interesting enough, the commander of the group, which became Colonel at the time, Ronnie Hawkins, who noticed TA's work and would become an adamant supporter and continues to be an adamant supporter. I want you to remember the name Ronnie Hawkins, as it plays a prominent role in this TA story. After TA's strong performance, he would somehow find his way back to Alabama. Now, I've been working the personnel system a long time, and I don't know anybody that's been to Alabama assigned as much as TA. I don't know what he does. I don't know how he do it, but he's been there 3-4 times. He keeps coming back to Alabama. I think he likes Alabama. But this time, he would attend squadron officer school. But he would stay after school, if you will, and get his first command job as a flight commander in the communications squadron at Maxwell. Maxwell is one of the Air Force's show bases in my mind. Nice and pristine look. As a flight commander, TA was expected to be a leader, and lead he did. His flight exceeded expectations, preparing the base for the year 2000 turnover in communications, preparing facilities for the Chief of Staff's new training program. They did all of this so well that TA was selected as number one of 517 officers, captains, and lieutenants at Maxwell Air Force Base. Number one of 517. He was also considered the command's best communications officer in all of Air Education and Training Command, which includes 20 installations around the country and 16 wings. Terrence was the best communications officer of all of those. How good was he? Maxwell has a few hundred captains and lieutenants. The base is operated by a wing commander. He or she gets to pick one executive officer. In the year 2000, the wing commander picked TA as the executive officer, and again, would rate him as number one. And is the wing commander here? Previous wing commander?
Colonel Allen back.
There's Colonel Allen back. He picked it to be his executive officer. So I'm telling you what you wrote, right? That's exactly what happened. Number one captain. He said it. I didn't say it. Number one captain in the wing. So we have an inflection point in TA's career, the point at which he begins to separate himself from the others. Because to be in that 1%, you got to separate yourself from the others. The Air Force has a select program. Perhaps it is the most select that you can have at the junior officer level. It's called the Air Force Intern program. It selects only 50 officers, and Terrence was one of the 50. One of the 50 in the entire United States Air Force. Remember how many officers I told you, how many people we have in the United States Air Force. And remember my premise. My basic argument. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, becoming servants for something greater than themselves. It turns out by this time, T.A., the former Army private and cook, was headed to Washington to participate in the prestigious Air Force Intern program. The Intern program meant that he would spend 12 months taking classes sometimes at George Washington, meeting with senior officials like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, the Chief of Staff, the Secretary of the Air Force, congressional leaders, all spending time with these Air Force interns. Why? Because they believed this 50 had a chance to lead in the nation's greatest Air Force. Not bad for a cook. In this program, he was one of the top 50, but he wasn't done. After such a prestigious assignment, now I was looking for a hardcore assignment that would come after that. We did something good, now we're going to send you somewhere very hard. But not T.A. They sent this fellow to Hawaii. He went to Hawaii after that assignment. Indeed, T.A. was signed to Headquarters Pacific Air Force's Director of Communications, who hired him into such a job, a great job. The director of that organization at the time was then Colonel and future Lieutenant General Ronnie Hawkins. Note to cadets, mentorship matters in a career, but it's second to performance. While in this job, he would bring the Air Operations Center online and further develop intrusion detection systems to secure communications for warfighters in the Pacific. Now, I want to remind you that when we talk about operations in the Pacific, and while I joke about Hawaii, don't be fooled by that. That includes China. That includes North Korea. Not every place is as friendly as Hawaii. Everything is worked jointly with the U.S. Navy, who normally commands the waters over the Pacific. The Air Operations Center is interconnected and used to manage the multiple operations going on in the Pacific Theater 24/7. Highly technical, high risk, significant impact if infiltrated by an enemy. According to his boss, TA was the key to making the Operations Center work and modernizing it with the best possible communications equipment. General Hawkins had to leave for another assignment, but before he left, he made sure he wrote this. TA is the best I've ever served with in 24 years. That's the future Lieutenant General Hawkins. His replacement was another mentor, Colonel Brundridge. TA would have the same performance and be cited as the #1 communications officer in the Pacific. I hope you're keeping score. By this point in his career, even if we stopped there, he was the best officer in a showcase wing. He was the best in Air Education and Training Command. He was the best in Air Combat Command. He was the top 50 Air Force-wide, and now he was the best in the Pacific. We could stop the book right there. Not many of us, myself included, could say that at this point in their career. That's what the group of strangers saw when they got to Randolph Air Force Base and started grading records. Terrence was selected to come back to Montgomery for a third time. And this time it was to spend a year in school studying about air power. He received a master's degree in the art and the science and the deployment and execution of air and at the time space operations. He would wrestle and reflect on the modern day application of air power, theorists like the Italian Duhay and the war strategies of Sun Tzu. He spent a year learning about what we do, the heart of what we do, the history of what we do, and how it's employed against an enemy. TA had moved quickly from the company grade officer to the field grade rank where leadership means everything, and that's exactly what the Air Force did next. They selected him to be a squadron commander. Squadron command is a key part of an officer's career. It's the first real test of leadership. Squadron commanders are given special judicial authorities over the lives of those they are entrusted with. Squadron command is no small deal. But not only did he do that in Oklahoma, he took it to Kirkuk Regional Air Base in the heart of Iraq. Please understand, Iraq has always been a dangerous place. Kirkuk, perhaps more so, as at the time it was the most forward deployed air base in Iraq. Combat operations launched from Kirkuk. 1,000 airmen, 5,000 soldiers bedded down to go forward in support of what at the time was Operation Iraqi Freedom. Kirkuk, for Terrence Adams, is where preparation and opportunity come together. He needed to work well with the Army in a joint environment. Well, that was easy to do. He used to be in the Army. His commander said that no one did it better. He needed to protect the Air Force airfield communication systems. But he'd learned about air control systems in Virginia under the tutelage of General Hawkins. He developed and improved those systems by 40%, brought online the giant voice system. Now, I know we don't all speak military, so let me make it clear. The giant voice system is what comes over and says, take cover. Everybody, take cover. The giant voice system has to work. It has to be reliable. It cannot fail, especially if your base may come under fire. That's what TA did. His deployed commander said he was number 2 of 18 deployed commanders, but when he got back home to Oklahoma, he got another report, and that commander said he's number 1 of every squadron commander I have. TA had passed 2 critical tests: leadership in squadron command, leadership in a combat deployment environment. In his career, TA would deploy to Iraq twice, and also to Oman, just outside of Saudi Arabia. 3+ years somewhere in the unwelcoming territory of the Middle East. It's a sacrifice no matter how you look at it, no matter how many toys you put on that base. 3 years in the Middle East is a sacrifice. But I want you to remember my argument. Remember the premise of our discussion. Ordinary people can be learned to do extraordinary things, but they agree, the second part, to voluntarily make incredible sacrifices and then serve for something greater than themselves, something abstract, something we call democracy. Now that's much greater than themselves. What did that group of strangers see in the record of Terrence Adams? After command, TA found himself on the Joint Staff back in the Pentagon for a second tour. This time, he would serve alongside members of every service as a communications expert. That's a different competitive pool. Every service, the best that each service has to offer. Perhaps that was TA's best performance on the Joint Staff. There's a reason why. They were focused on the application of communications in the deployed environment. TA had lived that life. He knew exactly what was needed to keep air operations flowing, air operations centers working, and command and control systems in place. He again, after a couple of years, he was chosen now for the 3rd time, get it, to be an executive officer, this time to a 3-star Army general, who is now a 4-star Army general. How good was his service on the Joint Staff? Did he compare well to those other service members? Number 1 of 78 Joint Field Grade officers on the Joint Staff. I quote from his record. That would include soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I wonder what that group of strangers saw in his record. I think I know. They did not miss his performance on the Joint Staff. TA's career would take him back to Al Udeid in Iraq for another deployment, and then another year to study at the prestigious National War College, where none other than Colin Powell studied. After this, he would rise to serve at MacDill and Scott Air Force Base, leading his own directorate. As you would expect, the timing was correct. The Air Force selected him in that small number of people that we select to be wing commanders. That means to run the entire installation. Wing command's a coveted position. Very few officers have that opportunity. Most will be promoted to general officer that time or the next. In TA's case, he came back to the Pentagon. The group of people met in San Antonio. They made him a general officer. That's where we find ourselves here today. That's how we got here. That, ma'am, is what I wanted you to know. That's what he's been doing for the last 35 years. Sacrifice, superior performance, deciding to go forward when most would have simply given up. On that 3rd assignment to the Middle East, some would have signed out and said no thank you. Finally, we're in a chapel, so I'm going to ask the theologians to give me a little grace here as I explain. Less than 1% of the country will ever put on a military uniform. That's okay. Those who do realize that they must go when they are called and do as they are asked. It's framed much as you would faith, more of a calling than a job. So in closing, I want to bring to your attention a well-known passage that in my own personal view sums it up nicely. Isaiah, the 6th chapter and the 8th verse. Also, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Now, I don't want you to rush to the end. I know you know how it ends. Isaiah, the future prophet, had to decide what to do. He doubted himself. He suggested that others go instead. He pointed out his ordinary features and even said, in the words of those days, I am not clean. So it couldn't be me you're talking to. I can't go to Kirkuk. I'm ordinary. I can't go to Oman. I can't go to Al Udeid. But you're wrong, Isaiah. Ordinary people can be called to do extraordinary things as long as they are willing to serve. You know how the story ends. Isaiah agrees to go forward. And much like those who serve with the 1%, agree to serve in uniform. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Here I am, O Lord, send me. A simple cook, but send me. And here we are today, 35 years after the son left home, joined the Army, started his first service. You know what I mean. Those of you in the front row, mother, the sister, those who know TA, you have raised an amazing son. And now he is a leader at the highest level. Any parent would be justifiably proud. I certainly would be justifiably proud. Colonel Terrence Adams has earned this merit-based promotion and the Silver Star he is about to pin on. So, Colonel, soon to be my fellow general officer, if you would join me, I think we have a ceremony to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the reading of the appointment order. Attention to orders. The President of the United States, acting upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Air Force, has placed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, integrity, and abilities of Colonel Terrence Adams. In view of these special qualities and his demonstrated potential to serve in the higher grade, Colonel Adams is authorized to assume the grade of Brigadier General, United States Air Force, effective the second day of September, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, I would like to invite Ms. Aretha Adams, Mrs. Simmons, Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Gully, and Chaplain Pugh to come forward to pin on the new rank. The Star is the oldest continually used rank in the United States military. The use of the Star to signify the rank of a general officer can be traced to a June 1780 decree by General George Washington during the War of American Independence. It is believed that General Washington chose the Star as the symbol of general officer rank in honor of its use in the Allied French Armed Forces. It is customary for family members or close friends to participate in the pinning ceremony to recognize their contributions to the promotee's success in achieving the higher rank.
Chaplain P, if you would pin on the hat, that'd be great. And then we'll get a photo after you finish that. And we can take the mask off.
Oh, please don't sit back down. Please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Mark Brown, United States Air Force retired, will now administer the oath of office. Please be seated. At this time, Brigadier General Adams will be presented with his personal colors. Honor guard, post. Throughout the history of warfare, a general officer's personal flag symbolized leadership on the battlefield. The Air Force has incorporated the use of flags to signify the presence of a general officer. This flag will be present at all times during official military functions and will also be visibly displayed in Brigadier General Adams' office. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Brigadier General Terrence Adams.
Thank you all. Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to just pause and get a moment of silence for the people who are still serving in harm's way and the families in and around New Orleans because of the storm that came to the United States. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. So General Brown did an excellent job going through my career. I mean, if eulogy was coming to mind, I mean, he chronicled the life very well. And usually we don't go that deep, but I think he knows we're home with family. This is my village, and a lot of the people of Tuskegee probably have not had an idea about what I've done, across the career. So very kind of humbling hearing this stuff as he's going through, but it has been this foundation of Tuskegee, surrounding Tuskegee University, where I was born, that gave me this opportunity. So while this promotion ceremony bears my name, it's not about me. This promotion ceremony is about the people of Tuskegee. It's about my mentors, my families, my friends, my mentors. This promotion ceremony is about my current office, where I serve on the Air Staff, Air Force Research Command, under the leadership of General Highnote. It's about my cyber community, my background that I'm a part of, where General Mary O'Brien leads that effort, and a number of people who are impactful in making this happen. This promotion is about AMC, Air Mobility Command. And so General Gordy, if you could raise your hand, sir, I know you probably don't want to, but General Gordy is up front here. General Gordy represents, I would say, a General McDew, General Everhart, General Sharpie, General Mary Ann Miller, and also General Von Ovos. These were the people. I consider myself a mobility airman. I was adopted into Air Mobility Command. It's the command that gave me my group command. They gave me an opportunity to be the AMCA 6, and then selected for Wing Command. While I was serving there at Joint Base Charleston, General Gordy was my boss. I did not know General Gordy. It was probably one of the first times I had no knowledge of one of the leaders that was going to be in my chain of command. And I got thrusted in that job very quickly with 25 days notice. And I want to just pause and say thank you, sir. He gave me a lot of grace. Charleston was a dynamic base. I evacuated the base on my first day in the seat, and that was just very challenging. So without General Gordy, this promotion would not happen. Without General Gordy, the mentorship and all the things, the conversations you had, sir, thank you for your confidence in me, and I want to just personally thank you in front of my village here. Thank you, sir. This promotion, additionally, is for all the mentorship organization. If you turn to the front cover of your program or the inside front cover, you will see all the individuals that thank me, that's helped to support me, and also the ones that have mentored me. Fall Gathering, AFCOMAP, my fraternity, the Army program called the Rocks. All those individuals were instrumental in assisting me. You also see the city of Tuskegee down there near the bottom, because that is the foundation and that is my home. And you also see my university, so AUM is there. So, sir, thank you for being here. Troy States and General Gallant, thank you for being here, sir, as well. And then you also see Alabama State ROTC detachment on there, because that is the organization that gave me, the foundation to become an officer and to get commissioned. So all those folks that you see there are the ones that's why I'm here. My mom sits here right here in the front row, and she's that family unit General Brown kind of talked about. In our relationship, I would say, growing up may have not have been the perfect son and mother relationship. My mom, and I know we're in Tuskegee, where many people may or may not know the history of my mom, but there was this drug addiction that took place when I was young. And I often don't talk about this because, as you can see, it may be very sensitive for a general officer to talk about drugs. So I'm probably getting a little emotional even talking about it, because drugged me to church. She drugged me to school. I mean, she drugged me to 1,000 different places. And so, Mom, I want to just thank you for drugging me. You did a great job, so I appreciate that, Mom. I have General Allen back in the audience, so I think probably just yesterday I texted him and let him know. So thank you for being here. I know it's kind of last minute, sir. Wing exec, a lot of these jobs, are very foundational. So thank you, sir, for the opportunity to lead. I'm still in touch with Mr. Cagliari, who gave me that opportunity. Today's promotion ceremony is about all those people who helped me to be successful. Many of you all kind of know and had an opportunity to thank you all. I am humble for this. I have not seen the rank on me yet, so I'm sure one day it will hit me. I could not do this without, a strong background in Tuskegee. When Felicia was bringing up where to do this ceremony, I had to remind myself I was born on the campus because of John Andrews. I remember as a young kid, you're going to go out and see, if you go to the museum, you will see the aircraft that's perched right in front of the Chappie James Center. As a junior in high school, I remember when that aircraft was dropped down on the center of our campus there in Tuskegee Institute High School by a huge helicopter. Right? That day is vivid in my memory as far as seeing that aircraft. I would not know what seeing that aircraft being delivered would mean to me across my career. I would not know the foundation that Booker T. Washington, Lewis Adams, George Washington Carver would play in my life, and additionally the Tuskegee Airmen, and the Commodores as well. As I travel around, those are the names, those are the entities that ring true across the world, globally, Europe, Germany, specifically, no matter where you are, you will hear those names. But additionally, Thomas Reed Chicken Coop, if you remember the chicken coop, right? When you talk about things, if you know Tuskegee, these are the things that people know and people are aware of about this great city in Tuskegee. I have a fire in my belly to try to help Tuskegee as much as I can on the economic side to grow. I'm sure each one of you have seen that there could be a lot of improvement. I want to be a partner with the university, with the city, to do whatever I can to assist. And so I just want to let you all know that publicly. I have a lot of friends that are here. So for my friends who've traveled the furthest, I know we got Chaplain Pugh who came in from Hawaii. We want to appreciate him. But I know a number of you all have come in and witnessed this in person. I do appreciate each and every one of you for the last minute changes that you all endured to get here. And so one of the final things I would say about this promotion is from my grandmother, Mrs. Minnie Adams. She worked at John Andrews Hospital. She labored there for many years. And I'm sure her and all the other folks that worked there will be proud of this moment. This promotion is for everybody who couldn't use the GI Bill after they came back from war because they were African American and weren't allowed to go to certain universities. This promotion is for Tuskegee that was founded to support those. And again, Felicia reminded me this university was founded to help the people and the citizens of Tuskegee at the time. So this promotion, again, where you see me wearing this star, and many of you all have told me this, is that you feel elated like it's part of your promotion, and that's why I came back to Tuskegee, because I wanted to make it a part of your life and part of your promotion. If there's anything I can do, I continue to serve and wear this uniform and drape the flag around me to protect the nation, but I do so because I want to give back to people. It is my second job to uplift individuals. My leadership tenets, as many of you all know, is to listen, lift, and love. Listen to people, try to understand where they are, lift them up to a higher platform, and in every step I make, I try to show and express love in doing so. So again, thank you all for being here. I think that's all I have. I got some gifts I want to give out to folks, so if we can bring those out. We got some flowers that we're going to hand out, so we can start doing that before I depart. That'll be great.
At this time, General Adams will present tokens of appreciation to his family.
So, Mom, this is for you. Thanks for all your love and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Yep. Sister and sister. And so there are a lot of people who helped put this on. And while I'm passing these out to the sisters, Kenyatta Kendricks, and thank you for your help. Kenyatta's done a lot of work in gifts and gifts development, so we want to say thank you. I have one more, and we'll say this. So you all don't know this, but so in order for this promotion ceremony to take place and doing it over distance, there were a lot of people who had to help from afar. Having another ceremony in D.C. at the Air Force Memorial, and so I have another planning team visually waiting for some inputs from me. But this Tuskegee team did a great job. Chris, I want to say thank you. I welcomed him with a gift last night. I just met Chris 2 days ago. I just met Monica yesterday, and those are the ones who led a promotion ceremony, 2 individuals who I have not met. So Monica, this is for you, and we'll leave it up here for you to get. But thank you for being a protocol person to making sure that we kept on track. Thank you. I think those are all the gifts that we have. Yep. So Mom, if you would just stand, we got something special for Mom. Unless you want to come on up, your call. You come around. We'll let Mom stand in the position of honor, as always on the right. Chris, over here.
Certificate of Appreciation. This certificate is to commend and honor Miss Aretha Adams for her outstanding commitment as a mother. Due to her selflessness, faithfulness, devotion to her family, and unwavering support. Without her steadfast dedication and loyalty, the successful promotion of Brigadier General Terrence Adams would have been hindered, for she has served as his backbone and continues to do so every day. This award is to express the gratitude which she deserves and the inexhaustible love that is engraved in the hearts of the ones in which she affects the most, given on this 3rd day of September, 2021.
Take a picture too. Thank you, there, Mom. Yep. Thank you, Mom. What's it? I don't have anything else, right? And let's wrap it up then. Let's do it.
Copy all, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Now, you may be seated. You may be seated. I got a couple more announcements. Prior to the reception, please meet us for a group photo at the monument dedicated to Booker T. Washington, the first president of Tuskegee University, directly in front of the chapel. Then, please join Brigadier General Adams for the reception at 11:45. The reception is on campus at the Daniel Chappie James Center. Guides will lead you there, and directions can be found on the QR code. What time is that, ma'am? Correction, 12 o'clock. Please meet us for the reception at 12 o'clock. Thank you, Ms. Felicia. For those interested in a self-guided tour of the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site at Moulton Field, the directions can also be found in the QR code on the back of your program. It is a short 5-minute drive from campus. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please rise. In keeping with Air Force tradition, we will conclude today's ceremony with the playing of the Air Force song. While it is customary for Air Force members to stand, we invite all of our guests to join us in standing for the Air Force song and the departure of the official party and distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay where you are. The ushers will escort you out. We thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful Air Force Day. Please, again, remain where you are. The ushers will escort you out. Correction, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few things going on out in the lobby, so if you don't mind having a wonderful seat, thank you so much. And I'll let you know when we can go, when we'll be dismissed.